November the 18th, 1967, we were down in the Delta on an operation in support of the infantry. The infantry was on a big move trying to push. Actually, they were in the citation, it says Viet Cong. You didn't normally see 1,500 Viet Cong. But because of politics at the time, they couldn't say that they were NVA because NVA weren't supposed to be that far south. This was the southernmost southern Vietnam. So they, in the citation, it says Viet Cong. But no, they had uniforms on. They were military, and God bless them, they were good military. I mean, when they come running at us, they were all scary, but yet, wow, they were doing their good job very well. So that night, we were hit by Reinforced Heavy Weapons Battalion of NVA. And they would come charging at us 150 to 200 at a time. And we were set up alongside a river, and they were on the other side of the river. So they had to come across. Most of the river was about this deep. But just before it hit our bank, there was a drop-off. So you'd see them coming across, holding their weapons up, and then they'd disappear, but then they'd come right up again, and then come on up the bank and do their job. That's part of my nightmares that I have every night, is watching their eyes and seeing hands come up out of the water. Because we were doing our job as soldiers like they were doing their job too. And that's just part of my nightmare every night, is I see a hand come up out of the water. There were 42 artillerymen. Now there were 20 or 30 infantrymen that had been across the river. But our guys went and got the infantry and brought them over to our side. So they were in our little holes that we'd dug, We'd never really faced 1,500 of the enemy at one time before. So it was very awakening. And there again, we fired beehive. That's the only thing that saved our life, was the beehive round. And it was extremely effective. That's where I got hit by beehive, because my gun got hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, RPG, and blew us all off. And the enemy started turning our gun around, and our next gun back thought, well, we were all dead. Well, I was laying half in and half out of my foxhole because it had knocked me unconscious. And when my guys, the enemy was coming up and shooting you and stabbing you with their bayonet, and my guys fired the artillery round over my piece, well, I wasn't dead. And that's what saved my life, actually, because the enemy was there to shoot me. So when I rolled, I woke up in the bottom of my foxhole, which was only about this deep, and couldn't hear anything for a while. So all I could see was all the tracers. Ours were red, theirs were blue and green. It depended on, So we had all these, I'm laying there, couldn't hear nothing, all these pretty lights going right over the top of my head. And I'm thinking, wow, this is really pretty, And then I started realizing I was hurting. And then my hearing started coming back, and I could hear the rat-tat-tat-tat, boom, 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 boom. And, well, what's happening? But then I raised my head up, and then I seen where we were and what was happening. And I start remembering what was happening. And that's when I went about doing my job. Fired all the artillery rounds that we had, fired all the M16 rounds that I had, and that's when I seen Gwendell Holloway from Stockton, California. Gwendell stood up and waved his boonie hat at me. And I thought, oh, wow, Gwendell's over there. Now, there again, I didn't know him. We had seen each other, about like Deister, we'd seen each other, but I didn't know him. Well, I had to go get him. He's over there with the enemy. I got to go get him, bring him across. So I went to the river. Now, my back was broke. My ribs was crushed. I had 30 beehive holes in my body, AK-47 round here in my thigh, but I could still go. So I did what I could, and I went across the river, crawled back to where I'd last seen Gwendell standing, and there was a foxhole. And there were 3 men in it instead of just one. Well, all were wounded. Billy Ray Crawford from Alvin, Texas. Billy Ray had lost his leg just below the knee. And Jim Deister had been shot through the head. They said Deister's dead, and he looked extremely dead. But I wasn't going to leave him because I seen what the enemy were doing with our dead. They were mutilating them. So I couldn't leave him. Picked up Jim Deister and put him on my back in the water, swim across, and my guys helped get him up out of the water, and I immediately swam back, and Billy Ray and Wendell could both hold on to me. So when I swim, my swimmers were working really good and made it back across the river, and then my guys jumped in and actually pulled them up out of the water and helped me get them out. And I can remember laying in the water, and the water felt cool on all my wounds. And I thought, well, my job's done now. And I just let myself sink. And as I'm sinking down into the water, it was like somebody picked me up out of the water and was holding me and said, son, your job isn't done yet. And then laid me back in the water. And I swam to the bank and rested, which I was only 10, 15 feet from the bank. So went and joined my guys and did what I could, put bandages on, and as much as I could. I could remember sitting there the next morning when things had calmed down. They broke contact with us about 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm sitting there at the edge of my foxhole, and man, I'm hurting so bad I couldn't believe it. I mean, I could see my bullet wound, but why am I hurting up here? I couldn't see. All I had was little X's and dribbles of blood coming out, and I'm thinking, well, why am I hurting? I had no concept that I'd been hit by beehive, flechette round. And that's what was making me hurt. That's what causes the majority of my pain today, is where all those beehive went through and they created scar tissue. And as the doctor told me, he said, every time you do anything, you rip that scar tissue and creates more pain. So that's why I hurt all the time. I had one round in my left kidney and had holes in my liver, holes in my kidney where it passed through. But no, I'm okay. I just got scar tissue. So still hanging in there. You don't lose till you quit trying, and I just have not quit trying yet.